Good morning, Minecraft, and welcome to today's modded Minecraft tutorials, where I demonstrate how certain machines can work together with other machines and even groups of mods to create hands-free mining, processing, or even crafting systems. So today's tutorial was requested by Bram Schott, who wants to know how I made my inventory system on my Attack of the B-Team series. Well, Bram, it is actually a hybrid of three different mods that I kind of just slapped together into a mix-match system that seems to work well for me. But I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate how I built that system and its in components. Okay, let's start off by going over some of the items that I'm going to be using in this build. I'm primarily using impulsed item ducts because a lot of my systems for processing are using thermal expansion, or I just have a lot of impulse item ducts. They are fairly expensive, requiring hardened glass to make with a basic item duct using tin and hardened glass. They also need to be infused with energized glowstone. Fairly complicated process I may get into later, but for now let's get back to the rest of the items. I've got mostly reinforced strong boxes for holding materials. The reinforced strong boxes are a hardened strong box with hardened glass, and the hardened strong box is a chest, tin ingots, and invar ingots. I've also got at least one pneumatic servo. Pneumatic servos, where are they? Here they are. Pneumatic servos take iron, glass, and redstone. For the item retrieval, the automated stand in one place, open up an interface and select the items that you want. This system is quite a bit more complicated, requiring the routed interface pipes, item transport pipes, all from Project Red. And this is probably the most expensive part of the system, primarily the chips. Okay, this is the first chip on our list, the item broadcaster chip. This chip says, this is what I have in my inventory, this is what I have in my chest, and it sends out the information to the interface pipe when you step up to it and you click on it, and it brings up your list of inventory. This is the chip that says to the system, hey, this is what I've got in my chest. It requires magenta Illuminars, gold, no logic router chips. The Illuminars is glowstone and magenta. Let's get back in. The logic chips require paper, gold nuggets, and redstone. So the next chip on our list is the item responder chip. This actually responds to the interface pipe and sends back the item that is requested. And it requires orange Illuminar, which I was using a lot of the stained saplings and glowstone from Witch Farm. And it requires an iron ingot and the no logic routing chips that we saw earlier. So next are the item transport pipes. So let's bring up pipes, or just pipe. Okay, item transport pipes, fairly cheap and simple. Glass pane and stone gets you 16 of those. Next we're going to need interface pipes, which actually require junction pipes. And the junction pipes require this infused silicon, which is a red silicon. This is probably the most complicated part here, is these interface pipes. You make a silicon boule, you slice it with a diamond saw. Silicon Boule is created with sandy coal. Sandy coal is 8 blocks of sand and a block of coal. A block of coal, of course, is 9 coal blocks. So that's a fairly complicated process to get to this routed interface pipe or even the routed junction pipe. So next and last on this project red is the routed request pipe. This is probably the most used part of the system, the part that we're going to interface with the most. Or, wait. Yeah, the routed request pipe. That's the one we're talking about. It takes a junction pipe, which we've already been through the mess of the junction pipe. And lastly, but not least, is the deep storage units, which I use primarily for things like cobblestone and my massively overpowered, overextensive lumber. I use it primarily for the lumber. So the deep storage is not, I don't use this recipe here because getting to the Tesseract early on is difficult to do, and it does get you 4 deep storage units. So you want to use this one instead. It just uses a regular strongbox and a machine frame. The machine frame is fairly simple: glass, iron, and some gold. Now let's go ahead and get back to actually building this system, and I will see you guys in a few seconds. Okay, now that in our last episode we built this processing system, we're going to need a place to put it. So let's go ahead and start something like that. Let's go ahead and place down several boxes. I want to get them up off the ground, so I'm going to place 3 in a row here. We're just going to go with the simple 9x9, or I should say 3x3. Oops. Simple 3x3 box, and then let's go ahead and put 3 deep storage units up at the top. This is kind of how I have mine stacked up on my attack of the B team setup. So first off, we're going to want a way to get inventory into our system. So the first thing I have is what I like to call a drop box, or garbage disposal. What it is just a simple box with an impulse item duct coming out of it, and it runs down my base into the rest of these chests. You may want to break up the pipes with micro blocks, so let's go ahead and do that. Let's grab some stone. Wow, lots of different types of stone. Okay, let's grab a stack of just basic cobblestone covers. Now, I don't remember the exact reasons why you want to do this, but it keeps things a little cleaner and a little bit less laggy. Oh, now I remember. It's because sometimes the items can kind of get lost in here, and they'll just go around and around and around and around, and you really don't want to do that. You don't want to allow your system to get stuck like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to use micro blocks to kind of break things up a little bit. So there is that, and what we also need to do is set up, or let's set this impulse item duct to extract, and we want to use the pneumatic servo to go ahead and do that. I also wanted a lever. I just want one lever. I don't need all of them. So what this lever is going to do is going to send it's going to allow us to turn on and off the item sending. So let's grab just some basic cobble. Grab a stack of that, and we'll stick it in our chest. So what this does is it allows us to turn on and off the item flush, as I call it. You can have your servo set to always on, either low or ignored, so you don't have to deal with the flipping of the lever or standing on a pressure plate or something, and it will just automatically send everything to your system. Now the cobble went into the first available chest. So what we want it to do is we actually want cobble to go into this first deep storage unit. So I'm going to set up a pneumatic servo here, and I'm going to set it to a whitelist cobblestone, and I also want to set this pipe to be green, which means that when items come into the system, the first thing it's going to do is check this slot here. So instead of going to the first available chest, it goes to the first green slot. So let's see what happens to the cobblestone now. Flip that lever, and if we watch, it should go into our deep storage unit. Okay, now if we send anything else into here, let's go dirt. Just grab a stack of dirt. We'll stick that in there. Where does the dirt go? Dirt goes into the first available chest. So we're going to expect to get a lot of dirt as well as cobblestone. So let's go ahead and do the same thing with this next deep storage unit. We're going to set it up to handle dirt. We want to whitelist dirt, and we want to set our servo to green, or our pipe to green. Sun's going down, so I'm going to go ahead and switch to daytime again. And then lastly but not leastly, let's go with oak. We want to set oak to the last servo here, or the last deep storage unit. So I put in a servo, I set it to whitelist, I put in my oak, and I set it to green. So now we have 3 deep storage units handling all the cobblestone coming in, all of the dirt coming in, and all of the oak lumber coming in, oak logs. So that has cobble, that has dirt, and that has oak. And those are going to continue to keep filling up. Now the next thing I want to do, and I'm going to set this up on the other side so it's kind of easier to follow. I'm going to set a chest here, and for now that's all the chests we're going to use. So we're going to swap this out with the next parts. So I'm going to start with setting up these routed interface pipes, and I need to connect one to each and every one of these inventory boxes. And we also want to come along and use the covers as well. There we go. I need to hold shift while I'm doing that. And since I'm on the ground, let's just go like this and like this and like this. So that kind of breaks up the system so it doesn't get stuck into a continuous loop. So now we need to connect our system to this chest. Let's kind of bring it down and around so it comes out the back, or the front as I should say, and put a routed request pipe on this end. Now this is the end that brings up the what's in your system, but in order for these chests to communicate with this, they need to do it through responder chips and broadcast chips. So the first thing we need to do is configure our chips. And we want to make sure that they have items blacklisted. If you set them to whitelist, that means that only the items in this list will be displayed. So let's go ahead and insert a chip into each one of these. Just like that. Now let's check to see if those chips are in there. Yep, they're in there. Now we can come over here to the routed request pipe and we actually show items in our system. Now let's throw a few more random items in here. Let's get some birch saplings, some pistons, some gold blocks, railroad tracks, just all kinds of stuff. Let's go with some glass too. Now these should all be going into the first chest. My system doesn't have a specific place for each item to go, and I probably should have gone and done that, is set it up to where only certain items go into certain chests. It might actually respond a little bit faster. But if we go back over here to the responder, we now see, or the request pipe. If we go over here to the request pipe, we see all of our items. But we can't actually request anything. Or does it? Yep, it actually works. Okay, I did not realize that. So all I need is the broadcast chip. Let's see if we can get all 64 or 63 of the dirt. Okay, so the broadcaster actually works just fine. And apparently I didn't need to have the responder chips. So let me get back to you guys and see what the responder chips are actually for. Okay guys, my original assumptions about the item responder chips were completely incorrect. What the item responder chip actually does is it makes this junction it makes the junction accept inventory into it. Which is exactly what I'm doing back here with my impulse item ducts, is I'm sending items to the chest. So the responder chip sets it up so that this chest or this junction will actually accept items. So let's go ahead and do that. First of all, we need to make sure that our chip is set to blacklisted. And let's go ahead and just install all these chips in here. And I will show you guys how this works. And it's going to work a lot like the thermal expansion stuff. And we're going to need another routed interface pipe. And let's stick that down here. This is definitely not a good way to set up your system. It's actually probably a better idea to do it like this. Let's hold shift and let's set the interface pipe here. So you have an in and an out, or other way around. This goes into the system, this comes out of the system. So what you want to do with this return to the system is you want to use the item extractor chip. Okay, here is the recipe for the item extractor chip. You're going to need the cyan luminar, an iron ingot, null logic routing, and our null logic routing chip, and 3 redstone. The cyan luminar takes cyan dye, or I prefer the cyan stained saplings. So there's the recipe for that. And let's go ahead and make sure that it's configured correctly. Once again, it's got whitelist. We want to change it to blacklist. Just changing it to a blank blacklist allows it to accept all items. We're not going to specify one set of or one type of item or not, unless you really want to. You can definitely configure this with, or you can definitely mix and match this with the processing system that I've got. These will work just as well. So let's go ahead and That's the right one. Let's go ahead and install this. Okay, and what this should do is now that any item that I stick in this chest will be sent to the system. But as you'll notice, it's a lot slower. It's not taking the entire stack at a time. This is why I prefer using the impulse item ducts, is because they'll pull the entire stack out at a time, and it just goes through a chest really fast. Here, let me show you the difference again. We'll get some basic stones, some grass, dispensers, and we will shift them in there, and they're disappearing almost as fast as I'm shift clicking them in there. So that's why I prefer using those. These chips do allow for upgrades. I'm not going to get into how to upgrade. I've seen a couple of the other guys doing some upgrading of their chips, and it looked like it was a very expensive, drawn out process. So I don't really want to get into it this episode. This is not a Project Red tutorial. This is a tutorial of how I built my system and why I built my system. So I think that's going to be it for now. I think that's going to do it. So this is OneWolfe demonstrating how I built my inventory sorting system on the Attack of the B-Team series. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye!